second one is a very powerful, a constitutional limit on spending and tied to the growth of population and inflation. And the reason that makes sense is that we're a growing state. We're going to spend more money in Austin, Texas, is a total most likely, because our state's growing. All things even, as your family got bigger, as you added members to your family, you spent more money. Same's true in the state. As we bring more people into the state, they have their children, and they go to our public schools. They put pressure upon our transportation infrastructure, or our utilities, or our water, or whatever it might be. And we're going to spend more money. But let's put a downward pressure, if you will, a cap on that spending, and tie it to population growth and inflation. Today we've got a limit, but it's on personal income. Well, personal income is growing like this, while the rest of the state is growing like that. And I think it makes a lot of sense to have that nice governor, if you will, in the other sense, to put a little brake on the spending. And we can do that constitutionally. We will go to the people of the state of Texas and say, we're going to change our spending limit. And so putting that to the people, and they will clearly say, whether or not they agree with this, my instinct is they'll say that's a good idea. Third, oppose any new taxes or tax increases and make the small business exemption permanent. Small businessmen and women have to go to Austin, have for the last few sessions of the legislature, and said, will you put that tax exemption for small businesses back in place? And every 2 years they have to go back. And there's not the stability, there's not the predictability of those small businessmen and women to know that this is going to be in place. I'm for putting it in place and letting it be there permanently. Put it in the statute that if you have $1 million or less in your small business, you do not pay that business tax. That gives stability to them. And that gives them the knowledge that if they want to expand their business, or if they want to go hire some people in their community to do more out of their business, that in 2 years that's not going to go away. It's going to be there for them. So make that small business tax exemption permanent. Strong rainy day fund. Let me share with you, those of you in East Texas understand when I came roaring through here, and the impact that it had on this community. That's what the rainy day fund was created for. Those one-time big events that may happen in this state. You know, we have our fair share of natural disasters, whether it's tornadoes, or hurricanes, or floods, or wildfires, or drought. We have it in Texas. And the rainy day fund wisely was put into place for those major events that occur, as somewhat of an insurance policy, if you will. There are those in Austin that want to get in there. The people, James, that want to say, well, let's use it to cover the spending that we're doing on programs that come every 2 years. That's not what it's there for. Let's clearly say we're not going to use this rainy day fund, but for one-time only expenditures. The second reason to keep this rainy day fund very strong and robust is because on long-term lending programs, like building highways or like building major utility projects, that it's just like the mortgage on your home. You want to have the lowest interest rate that you can have, and when you've got an $8 to $9 billion rainy day fund there, those bond rating companies that decide what that interest rate is going to be will give us the lowest rate possible. That makes sense. The third one ought to go without saying, but cutting unnecessary and duplicative government programs and agencies. If there are multiple agencies of government, and the fact is there are just things out there that still, once government programs get in place, what was it, Ronald Reagan that said that the closest thing to eternity was a government program? Saying something like that. And as good as we do it in Texas, there are still places that we need to analyze where there's duplicative government agencies or services, that we just step in and say, you know what, you don't need to be doing that program, and we're going to reduce the cost to the people of the state of Texas. So that makes all the sense in the world. But James White understands. It's one of the reasons that James signed on to this budget compact very early. He said, Governor, he said, there's not a thing on there I don't believe in with all my heart. And there's not a thing on there that I don't want to go to Austin, Texas and help put into our statute or in our Constitution to protect future generations. Because here's what we're asking. James may not be in the legislature forever. I hope you're in there for a good long spell. Okay. But he may not be in there forever. I may not be governor forever. But the people of the state of Texas will know that they can have as stable economy and as fair a government as they can have with those types of protections against somebody coming in and either not budgeting in truth and fairness with great transparency, or a constitutional limit that, you know, we can spend more money because we got this limit that is too flexible, or we're going to have to raise these taxes, or let's just get into that rainy day fund and pay for that program just for this 2-year period. Well, we know what happens, and they come back and say, well, I don't want to tell those people no, so let's just do it again and again. You try that in your personal life and see how it works with a bill collector. Tell us, can we just put this off for another year? Government shouldn't be treated any differently than you. And I think those are just good old East Texas values. We're putting common sense East Texas values into place with this budget compact. And I know the people of the state of Texas will be better served. And James White will be standing there with me, elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder, or back to back if we're in fight. Right. And I need that. God bless you. Thank you all for coming out and being with us today. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Governor. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Y'all just mill around.